Hey everybody, it's your man James, Mr. Quinn Treasures, back again with some more video action. As promised, I told you in the last couple of videos I did, which were very heady topics on a very sad situation. I said I wanted to move back to more positive things, a little more fun, and so that's what this is going to be today. A little fun jaunt here for you with some new stuff and some old stuff. What am I talking about? Well, we'll get that second here. I just decided that since as you guys know, I was having some medical issues earlier this year, and so I did go to SummerCon back in June, but I didn't get a chance to do my usual shtick that I would have done if my health would have been a little better off. So I've decided I'm going to give you guys like sort of like the belated tour, I guess you could say, of SummerCon, and so I got some photographs here I'm going to show you, and then there's going to be some at the end I'm going to tack on here you're going to enjoy. But I met some really great people this year, and it was a lot of fun. Even though I was only there for one day, it was a lot of fun. It was a great time, and it was very important to me because some of the people there were like ones that really meant a lot to me growing up as a kid, and we're going to get into that here. So let me go ahead and start sharing the screen here. And here we go. Now, this is me here with Fabian Nazia, who you all guys all know probably from books like X-Force and the like, and one of the co-creators of Deadpool. And here it is. Here I'm going to pick it up. This is me with him, and he had signed. You can see right down here. He signed my Thunderbolts page from issue 35, The Death of Jolt, which was I signed the previous year by Mark Bagley. So I was kind of cool. Got to meet him. A lot of fun. Had a lot of great stories to tell. I remember telling him, I said, he said that the whole thing about his run on Thunderbolts is he felt that in the last few issues of Busiek's run, that they were kind of like just sort of coasting, and they weren't really, really getting the book out there like in like the way it had been before, like with the excitement. So the first things you want to do, he said, was to like really get that back. I said, well, and I told him, I said, well, dude, your first two issues are just crazy. I say, you got the first issue, your first issue, they fight the Hulk, and then the next issue is, the return of the Beetle and the death of Jolt. I mean, I go, you hitting out with both barrels right at the start. He goes, well, that was the point. We wanted to bring back that excitement that, like, say, the first year of the book had for everybody, and that was the whole intention of what they were doing. I thought it was kind of interesting to hear. So, and just, very funny guy. Like I said, he had a lot of stories. If you ever see him at a show, hit up Fabian. He's very funny, very funny. So I had a good time with that. Then next up, here I am with artist Chris Warner. Again, the guy who's been around the block quite a few times here. I remember his work on, over at Dark Horse on, stuff like, Predator and the Terminator and things like that. And as you can see here, I'm going to increase the thing here. I got this page of art right here from him. It's from Doctor Strange number 79. The old Doctor Strange with Peter B. Gillis. He told me about this when I bought the page. He said that when he was working on the book, him and Peter Gillis, he goes, they talked about it. He goes, they said they're like, the thing about Doctor Strange is everyone loves the character. You talk to creators like, oh yeah, I remember the Ditko stuff and they did this and that. He goes, but in the end it actually failed because that stuff canceled and it didn't last long. And then when they would do Doctor Strange, we're going to go do the same kind of stuff they did, and let's do what failed. And he goes, so when they came on, they said, we're going to try to take a different tack, and that's why, like in this issue here, he said they started a scene where Doctor Strange battles a sorcerer who's an alien from another world. Very much not in keeping with the Doctor Strange stuff that had come before, with other dimensions of it. This is him, a magical battle against another sorcerer. But he happens to be also a sci-fi being injected with him being an alien from space, another world. And he goes, that was their way to try to shake up the character and get it more, more intriguing and, less of what people had always come to expect of Doctor Strange, and do something a little different that will help him stand out and maybe get people to want to buy it more, get more excitement in there, but yet still being true to the characters, and I like that. And so, I saw that page. I'm like, I have to get that. It's got to get a page of that. So it was very, very good time there. Again, just another guy who's a very funny guy. I'm finding out a lot of creators are pretty funny in here. And then, of course, here we are. Of course, I couldn't go to the show and not see Aaron Lopresti. I could not see my old friend. I could not fail to see him. But, yeah, I went there. And, again, I'm going to big it up here for you. You can see right here, this is a page from What the number 16. With a story with Forbush Man. We all know who Forbush Man is, and this is like some of Aaron's earliest work. You know, this is like early in his career, like very, very. This is like circa, I think, 1991. So like this is like right near the start of his career. And you know, I had promised Aaron, you know, being in some of his streams in the chat and stuff, I told him, I said, you bring some what the pages or any of those Spider-Man backup features you did, you know, in like the early 90s, I say you will get a sale on this. And so there it is. That's me. That's me keeping my word to Aaron. I bought a page, you know, for him, and I got this one. I just love this image here of the specter of early cancellation. And then if you see the colored version in the book, he's the same colors as DC's Spectre. So like they're mocking DC in this, you know. And here's, you know, here down here, you probably can't see it too well, but it's this kid getting cut in half because he goes, you know, the Four Bushman says something about, you know, what is it? You know, holy beaver something, right? And beaver cleaver, holy cleaver something, and beaver cleaver from Leave It to Beaver shows up, and that's who gets catched. And you know, and so it just very funny stuff. I always love the What the series. It's probably, you know, this kind of thing they don't do in comics anymore. You know, they couldn't laugh at themselves and let others laugh at them like this anymore. That's something that's very much missing in the modern era of comics, where they could just like laugh at themselves and just, you know, poke fun, and it's all in good natured ribbing, you know. But it wasn't just the comic pros I went to see this year. This year was big because there was several guys in the media department, you know, like in TV and movies and things of that nature, who were there, and I just had to meet because I figured I'd never get another chance. And here's one right here. This is Maxwell Caulfield. Now, most of you, if you ever heard of him, you probably know him from Grease 2, or maybe the film Empire Records. This is him, but I know him best. You can see right here on the sign, The Boys Next Door. That's the movie I know him best from, and I was introduced to that movie by my best friend, you know, and made me an instant fan of Maxwell's in there. And you know, I told him about that, and you know, we shared some moment, you know, a few moments there talking, and you know, he told me some stories about when they were making the film. He told me this story that right before they were going to start filming, because he said they did a lot of filming at night, you know, because it was easier to get around, like, you know, the police and, like, you know, like certain laws when you're filming, you know. And he said the night before, when they were getting ready to head out, Charlie's father, Martin Sheen, shows up, and he came to Charlie and was like, hey, me and your mother were heading out to the spa. You know, you can still come with us if you want. You don't have to do this movie. And because he said his father didn't want him to do the film because he was afraid Charlie would get typecast as, like, you know, a psycho. Because if he did a good job, oh, this guy's a good psycho, he gets to be the psycho all the time. And that's what he feared. And you know, because if you guys know anything about his filmography, you know, Martin Sheen played that type of a character in the film Badlands by like 20, you know, like 10 or 12 years before The Boys Next Door. So he played that same type of character, and he was afraid Charlie would follow too much in his own footsteps. And I actually told Matthew, you know, he didn't know this. I said, did you know that the jean jacket Charlie wears in the film is the same one his father wore in Badlands? And he did not know that. So that was actually fun for me to give the actual, you know, one of the guys who was in the movie information he didn't know about the movie. And I thought that was kind of fun. But yeah, he was a very gracious guy. You know, my wife loved him. She was really impressed with him. So, you know, I had a good time with that. Then, of course, another big one here for me. Here I am with William Daniels. And if you guys don't know who William Daniels is, I'll just say this. He's the voice of Kit from Knight Rider. That's right. This man is a indelible part of my childhood. You know, I grew up, I loved Knight Rider. I loved Kit. You know, it was my favorite show when I was young, you know. And you know, to meet him, he's 98 years old. Can you believe that he's 98 and he's still with us? Like, wow, that is amazing. And, you know, I just kind of, I'll admit, I kind of geeked out for a second or two, you know, telling him how important he was and how much I loved his role there. And, you know, it was very nice to meet him, a very nice elderly gentleman. But man, just to know that he was still around, and, you know, to be able to talk to him about that was something special for me. Like I said, this is a piece of my childhood, you know. And this is something I will always remember, getting to meet William Daniels. I actually bought a photograph from him, and of Kit, and he signed it. And that was just like the best thing ever, to have that keepsake forever. I got to meet the man who was the voice of one of the great characters I loved growing up as a kid. That's just too awesome. And speaking of great voice characters, this is probably my biggest one, is Barry Gordon. Now, he's known best as the voice of Donatello from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but he's also done tons of other work. He's done SWAT Cats, and he's done, all kinds of other great voice work in cartoons. And, of course, he's done some actual live work. He's worked on, episodes of Three's Company, an episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker, an episode of The Incredible Hulk, and, even a couple episodes of this is going way back, guys, a couple episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I mean, he's like 10 or 12 years old, and he's working with the master, And I even told him, I'm like, where do you go from there? It's like you hit Mount Everest at like 12 years old, working with the master. It's only downhill from here. And again, just a very gracious guy, very funny, and it's and if you see here in the picture, I'll pick it up. I brought my copy of Mighty Orbots, where he was the voice of Rob, the Orbot commander, and it's funny because a guy got in line in front of me. He had Mighty Orbots as well, and he was the first one to sign that DVD set for that guy. And he actually goes, I don't even know what to write on this. And I go, how about Orbots Unite? And he's like, hey, that's not bad, And then he ended up signing something. And then he saw mine. I was like, oh, I just signed one. I said, yeah, I know. I said, this is probably one of my favorite cartoons as a kid. I was like 10 years old, 1984, watching Mighty Orbots. I told him, I said, that there's this one scene in one episode where, like, he's talking through the video screen with the leader of Earth and all, and telling him there's this invention called the deflectrons being stolen. And I said, you just, the way you delivered the line was just so epic. You went, they may want the deflectron, but what they're getting is Mighty Orbots. Oh, that's fucking legend, son. For a 10-year-old boy, that is fucking legend right there. And he just cracked up laughing. And so he signed mine, and he put on mine. Maybe you can't see it too. Everybody goes, fight for what's right. Which, if you guys know anything about Mighty Orbots, that's in the song. That is in the theme song to the show. They're joining together to fight for what's right everywhere. Mighty Orbots. That's the verse of the song, and I just love that. This is just again, just like I said, this show was very special to me. I got to meet a lot of people who meant something to me when I was young, who really influenced me, and just I loved their work. I would follow them, wherever they went. Whenever I would hear his voice, I would know, oh, that's Barry Gordon. I would just immediately know it's him. And as you can see, he's kind of a small guy. I mean, I'm about 6'1", and he's a lot shorter than me. But yeah, he's a very, very small guy. I was surprised he was that small, but it was just a great moment to meet the man. Like I said, his voice that I've just heard in so many cartoons growing up. It's like an indelible part of my youth. And it was very special, very important to me that I got to meet him. And so just a great time, a really, really great time. So there you go. That's sort of my recap, you could say, of my adventure at SummerCon back in June. It was just a great time, a lot of fun, and just again meeting guys who meant so much to me growing up. It's a very special thing, and I was glad I got to meet them and share a few moments with them, a few laughs, and get some cool swag, as it says, of them. I had Maxwell Caulfield sign my Boys Next Door a DVD that I own, and he even signed it, rock and roll, at the bottom. And it's like, that's just sweet stuff. I love that when they come up with those little fun things for the fans like us. And so like I said, it was a lot of fun, and definitely looking forward to next year. Hopefully they'll get some really cool guests like that next year, because I made a lot of fun. The one person I didn't get a picture of because my wife had to leave to take a call, so she wasn't around to take a picture. I got to meet Brian Austin Green from 90210, and I had brought my 90210 soundtrack CD, which was signed by Jason Priestley a few years earlier. And I'm doing that because, after the wake of, the death of Luke, and now we just heard, recently the death of Shannon Doherty, it's like, if I'm going to get these guys, I better get them now while they're still here. And so, like, whenever I hear about a 90210 cast member, it's something that I can get to. I'm probably going to bring that CD to get them to sign it. And, we, again, just shared a laugh with Brian. I said, dude, if you told me back in 1992 that the guy who is the geek on 90210 is going to be a badass in a Terminator show, I would have laughed in your face. And he goes, dude, if you would have told me, I'd have laughed in your face. And that's just awesome. See, the self-deprecation. I love people that can laugh at themselves like that. And then when he went to sign my CD, because I folded out the book, because on the back of the book is the cast, as they were in 1992. all young and fresh. And he saw Jason Priestley's signature, and he told me a story. He said he just talked to somebody who, Jason had signed their shirt, and then she brought it for him to sign, and the signature was awful. He said, that's an awful signature. He goes, oh, I was talking to him, like, man, why'd you sign that? He goes, oh, well, I don't really like signing shirts that much. So I just kind of scribbled it in, and he goes, but that signature here on this CD thing that is the exact same signature that was on that shirt. So it's a lie. He lied about, I only do that for shirts because I'm not a big fan of signing shirts. Like I said, this is the fun stuff. This is the good stuff. We need more stuff like this. So, like I said, it was a good time, and I'm glad I met all those people. And it was just, like I said, I really look forward to next year. And it's just, these are the moments that matter. As I said, again, not to try to get back into what we were talking about the last couple of days, but I think Charlie Kirk would like a video like this. He would think it would be fun. Someone talking about something fun, having a good time with people, just laughing and enjoying each other's company that way. And that's why I did this video today, because I thought it would be something in tribute to Charlie a little bit, to give the kind of feelings that he would want people to have, and so I wanted to do that for him. And and just to end this all off, I went through an old live stream of mine I did, and I actually had a guest. I had Aaron Lepresti as a guest on it, and I was going through some of my favorite cartoon intros, and of course, Mighty Orbots had to make the cut. So I'm going to attach here at the end is a segment from that where me and Aaron are showing you the Mighty Orbots theme song. And enjoy that. Like I said, it was always important to me as a kid. I loved Mighty Orbots. And although as I've gotten a little older, I see some things and it's like, wait a minute. But you'll understand when you watch a little bit here at the end. But it's pretty funny. And again, I want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope you got a little fun out of this. You saw some cool people and some cool stuff. And I'll be back again with some more stuff very soon. And so until next time, take care. And this one has a little bit of a storied history behind it, which maybe I'll get a little bit into after we watch it. But here we go.
Go, mighty Orbots, they're joining together to fight for what's right everywhere. Mighty Orbots, protecting the world from the shadow of evil and doom. Orbots, champions of justice and truth. Soar, mighty Orbots, attacking the tower of darkness with one mighty force. Mighty Orbots, guarding the planets and shielding the good from the bad. Orbots, courage that shines like the sun. Mighty, power to fight anywhere. Orbots, unite. Heroes will never be scared. Bright lights shining together as one. Orbots, protecting the world for me and you.
Hit it, Ono. We've got a date with our hot satellite.
Oh, mighty Orbots, mechanical heroes united to be for you.
I've traced the deflectron to the planet Evilon. Dead ahead.
They're the Mighty Orbots.
Your mind has been poisoned by Japanese cartoons, I think, as a child.
The Japanese were all over the place in the 80s, Aaron. They did
I know they were. That's why I quit watching. But no, again, a nice rocking tune. I can't argue with you there. Really, captured that 80s vibe. But I don't know. I'm a little concerned about you.
This show is strange because they got sued out of existence.
Oh, really? Well, that one looked like Frankenstein Jr.
Well, that's not. There is an actual. This is actually based off of a Japanese property. I forget the name of it, but it's like it's a property where that the same type of robot they merge into is part of this story that's in Japan, and this is sort of an Americanized version of it because you had Barry Gordy as the Orbot commander.
Oh my God.
Donatello from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He is the one doing the voice of the Orbot commander. And so it's an Americanized version, but they weren't sued by anybody over in Japan for doing this. No. You know who sued them? Tonka. Because they said GoBots. And Orbots sounded too much like GoBots, and I thought people would get them confused. Which shows you how much faith they had in the kids to understand the difference between GoBots and Orbots.
Well, did they lose?
Of course they did. That's why there was never any merchandise or any toys or T-shirts and all kinds of crazy stuff that you always have with these things.
I don't know. It seems to me that the 80s was a wasteland of animation, or maybe, but I give you credit for like going into the nooks and crannies and like bringing up the most obscure stuff I've ever seen in my life.
Well, and there's one thing here. Let me see if I can get it going here. A little bit back before that. Champions of justice and truth. Okay, now this is the thing. As a kid, you don't pay attention to this stuff. But see, now as an adult, when I watch it, I notice certain things. It's like, what are you doing giving a robot soft feminine features and birthing hips? What is the Orbot commander doing with these robots when he's not out saving the universe?
It's a very complicated mess here that we're getting into, I think.
That's what I was saying. See, this is like I'm saying. You put this stuff into this, and it just goes over the kids' head. They have no idea. But as they don't, you're saying, "Well, wait a minute. Why does a robot have birthing hips? What is the point of birthing hips on a robot?"
Well, it depends on who designed the robot, I guess. But the one right before that yellow girl there I thought it looked like Frankenstein Jr. And I thought, oh, these anime guys, they're just ripping all us Americans off. That's all it is, repackaging it. I know what they're up to. It's not going to work on me.
Creative faith. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's not the kids that they underestimate. Maybe they overestimate the parents. Maybe that's what it is.
I'll tell you right now, I'd get confused. If I went to buy toys, I'd get confused between GoBots and Orbots or whatever the heck they were called. So I might be that guy.
They are. Blackjack called it GoBots were the Kmart Transformers. that's kind of what they were. But no, Mighty Orbots, number 3. I love the show. I was so sad when they canceled it, and I felt that was just wrong for so many reasons. You don't take out a show like that just because it has a name similar to yours. The Tonka was just mad that GoBots was never as popular as Transformers. That's all that was.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I heard of GoBots. I've heard of GoBots, so they can't be that obscure if I've heard of them. Now, Orbots, that's another story.
That's true. If Aaron's heard of it, it can't be that obscure because he doesn't follow anything that isn't like totally up in the mainstream that everybody knows.
That's exactly right.